Hey guys, so today I have teamed up with a couple of other homeschooling moms and we are sharing a quick rundown of the different options we have for scheduling as homeschoolers. So I am sharing the Sabbath schooling schedule style, or the 6 weeks on, 1 week off method, and Nikki at A Farmhouse Full is sharing a traditional school calendar, and Ashley at Grace and Grit is sharing a year-round schedule. So these are just going to be quick run-throughs of what does and doesn't work with the schedule in our family, an idea of how the schedule works in general. So if you are interested in any of these different scheduling types, make sure that you follow along and go to their channels and get a quick rundown of those schedules. If you are a new homeschooler, this may be especially helpful, or if your homeschooling schedule just isn't working well for you and you're hitting a wall, you may want to check out a different method. So let's get started. So with the Sabbath schooling method, or a 6 weeks on, 1 week off schedule, it's just that you do 6 weeks of school, traditional 5-day weeks if you'd like, and then you take 1 week off every 6 weeks to refresh, to plan, and to just take the time off, not to catch up on schoolwork, just to literally take a break. This can actually be arranged within a typical school year calendar if you want to follow along, or if you have one student in a school and you want to kind of keep your summer the same. Basically, a traditional school year is 36 weeks or 180 days. So you can do six week semesters. When my kids were in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, we did 5 6-week semesters because I didn't think they necessarily needed 36 weeks at that time. But now that we're kind of getting into the higher elementary ages, we are doing 6 6-week semesters. So that can be arranged however you'd like. Like I said, if you want to take a full summer, it's totally doable. You just start in August, you can end in May, but you're only taking 1 week for Christmas. If you want to do a longer Christmas break and a shorter summer break, that's totally possible. You can get 2 or 3 6-week semesters done in the beginning of the school year, take a nice month off in the winter, and then do the other 3 or 4 in the spring and early summer, and take a shorter but still decent amount of time off in the summer. So however you want to arrange it, however it works best for your family. For me, I start by highlighting Christmas week, and then I back up and start highlighting the 6 weeks before that, take a week off, and 6 weeks before that, and that gives me our start date for the school year so that I can make sure that our week off lines up with Christmas. And I've done it both ways, to where I've taken a month off in the winter and a month off in the summer, and I've done it to where I'm only taking a week off in the winter and taking a full summer as well. But I can't say necessarily which one works better for us. There's different reasons why they both work and don't work, but that's everything. There's always going to be a pro and a con. So the positives to this type of scheduling is that you're only planning for 6 weeks at a time. So you're not planning your entire school year at once. You're not getting overzealous in the summer and saying, okay, well in February we're gonna do an anatomy unit, and in March we're gonna do a world history unit, and in April. You're just planning for the next 6 weeks that's ahead. So you're never too far behind. If your kids start to fall behind in reading or math, it's okay, because you aren't looking at September and going, if we're this behind already, where are we going to be in January? You're only planning 1 6-week semester at a time. So if your kids do fall behind, or if life gets in the way of schooling, you have the chance to slow down and gather yourself. And then when you're planning the next 6 weeks, just pick up where you've left off. It's really, really helpful. Generally, when I'm sitting down to plan 6 weeks at a time, it can be done in 1 sitting or 2 sittings. I plan during that week off. And I do know our family schedule ahead of time, because you know, if it's the first week of March, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on for the month of March and the first couple weeks of April. I know what birthdays we have going on, what family events. I know who's gonna be out of town, if my husband's gonna be in town, and I can plan our 6 weeks based on that. I know if it needs to be a heavier workload or a lighter workload based on our personal family events. So that's super helpful. It's also really helpful if you do a unit study approach, or if you just like to do unit studies in general, if you're doing a read aloud and you want to be more project-based with it, because you can gather all of your resources as you're planning, versus sitting down in July and saying that the following February you're going to do an anatomy unit, and then getting to February and saying, okay, well that's on my calendar, but I don't really want to do that anymore, and having that inner conflict of, do I follow my calendar, or do I follow my family's rhythm here? So it's really helpful to plan just the next 6 weeks ahead, and not put the pressure of an entire year on 1 or 2 planning sessions in the summer. I also find that 6 weeks is really great to make a good amount of progress because you're very focused for that 6 weeks. You know the week off is coming. And at the same time, 1 week isn't too much time off that you're losing motivation and momentum. It's just the right breath of fresh air before you dive into another 6-week semester. My kids always know that that week off is coming, and so it helps them to stay focused and stay on track. It actually feels like a 3 in and a 3 out kind of a situation. When we're starting a new 6-week semester, it's like, it's exciting because we just had the week off, we're getting back into our routine. We have 3 weeks where we're diving into this information, and then we have 3 weeks where we're kind of wrapping up the information, wrapping up the book we're reading, wrapping up our unit study, and it keeps a really good pattern and it keeps us interested. We don't lose motivation, we don't get bored, we don't get worn out. I tend to get worn out by the end of the school year anyway, but that's just because we have a very busy spring in our family. But as far as our education goes, we don't lose a lot of momentum there in a 6-week time frame. It's really nice the way that the 3 in and the 3 out kind of work for our family. The off week is really, really helpful for planning things, especially we have 4 kids, so there's always somebody who needs a physical coming up or an eye doctor appointment or a dentist appointment, so I can always plan those during our off weeks, and I generally do plan what weeks I hope to have off at the beginning of the school year. I kind of set our schedule up for the year, so I know when I can plan doctor's appointments out ahead. I know when the grandparents can have sleepovers with the kids. That's one thing. We have grandparents in town and they do want to have the kids for sleepovers, so they always know that that week off is coming as well. I know that I'm gonna get a break from being teacher and I just get to be a mom. We'll go to the beach a ton. We go out to lunch and things that we don't typically do during our 6 weeks on. If our family does like to travel, so if you like to travel, you have a great schedule set up for you already where you know when you're gonna be off, and you have allotted time off during the lower travel season, so things tend to be cheaper. And I also really like to plan out house projects and things that I wanna get done. If I wanna plant a garden, which I never have, but you know, if I wanna deep clean the kitchen, if I want to, I don't know, we're putting new floors down, that's gonna happen during our week off, things like that. I have the space in my schedule now to work that out without having to abandon school or without having it take a toll on our schooling. So that week off is super, super helpful. But now we're gonna talk about the things that this schedule makes a little more difficult, just so you have a good idea of the whole idea of the schedule before you jump into it if you're interested. So a couple of the cons. One is the temptation to do school and catch up on school during that week off. If you're gonna be committed to this schedule, you really have to commit to that week off really being for refreshing. Otherwise, if you do any school through that week off, if you don't honor that week off, you're literally like doubling your workload because you do a lot more in that 6-week time frame because you have a week coming up that's gonna be off. So if you school through that 1 week off, you're adding a lot more work to your schedule. So it's just really good to be committed to the schedule if you're gonna do it, so that week off is enjoyable for you and your kids, and it's refreshing to the schedule and to the academics. I do find that taking the week off is really good for my kids. They tend to come back really refreshed and they remember a lot more of what we had done than I even anticipated. And so if you don't take that week off, you don't give their minds that time to rest. The other thing is you can't be too flexible during that 6 weeks when you are doing school. Otherwise you will lose a lot of the academic opportunities. If you say, oh sure, Grandma, we can totally meet you for lunch today, or oh sure, Nana, we can totally come over for a play date today. Then you lose those concentrated days of school, and that week off isn't necessarily earned because you didn't get 6 whole weeks of school done, and then you're actually just taking extra time off in your schedule than they maybe should have taken off. So you have to be really focused for that 6 weeks. And last but not least, if you do co-ops, oftentimes those schedules don't align with yours. My kids go to a class 1 day a week, and oftentimes on our week off, they're still going to that class. That's just in order to keep up with what we've paid for. Otherwise, I mean, they don't have to go, but you know, I want them to go. So they do still have a couple of things in their schedule like dance classes or soccer practice that don't line up with that week off. So there's a quick, I hope that was quick, a quick rundown of that 6 weeks on, 1 week off schedule if you're interested in how that works. I hope that you go check out those other videos. I will put a link up in the corner and down in the description box so you can go check out those 2 other homeschooling scheduling styles, and I hope that this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below what kind of scheduling method you follow. I'd be interested to hear all that's out there. See you later.